In today's video, how to set up a peak week with linear progressive loading.
All by myself.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Rebella from physique.com, and if you are interested in losing body fat, adding muscle, anything training and nutrition related, well, please hit the subscribe button because that's what we do here. In today's video topic, it's actually something that's very near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about peak week. Peak week is a specific time for bodybuilders. Now, people have been asking me to kind of describe the method that I use because it hasn't been around for that long. But first, what I'd like to do is kind of define what the peak week is. What are we talking about? Talk about some of the more common approaches, and then we're going to discuss how I got to this place where I use this specific approach to peaking. Well, what is peak week? Peak week is just a term we use to describe the final week before you step on a bodybuilding stage for competition. Now, it's been used for years and years as a time when many things are changed to adjust the look for stage. Really, the most important thing for a competitive bodybuilder is nailing the look the day of the show. How can we look the best we've ever looked the moment we step on stage? Many times when we're dieting down to get on stage, we look depleted, we look flat, maybe we use refeeds and we spill over a little bit. So our look is much more variable. But a good coach is going to use all that information and create a plan that ensures that the athlete looks the best they can possibly look on show day. So what I want to talk about now are some of the more common peaking protocols. Now, the first most common peaking protocol that was around for years, I call severe depletion. And I'm not even going to kind of honor this with much detail. Let's just say you pull water out, you pull sodium out, you might load potassium, you remove carbs, you make your diet all fish, all asparagus, and guess what? You look terrible on show day. And I'll explain why as I talk about the other peaking protocols. This approach is not only going to leave the athlete looking worse and worse as the show approaches, but feeling worse and worse. When you take someone who has very low body fat, pull all the water out of their body, take a lot of sodium out of their body, well, it can be very dangerous as well. That is one way to ensure that you look terrible on the day of the show. And what I often hear is, man, I looked great a week before the show, I looked great a day or two after the show, but I didn't nail my look. And you'll often hear people say like, well, I just mistimed my carb up, I just mistimed something. No, that's not it. You mistimed the entire week. You literally undid a lot of the work that was done during prep. So let's get into the three most common peaking protocols that I see used right now, and they all have some pretty good merit. The first one is going to be called a front load. I also created an infographic to show you kind of visually what it looks like. But a front load would look something like what's on the screen here. And it's essentially, we're going to take the athlete and load carbohydrates early in the week, then begin to taper them down. Then on Friday, based on how they're looking and responding, we might continue the decrease or bump them up more. The goal here is with all peaks should be to fill out our muscles, but also keep our intracellular water in the muscle, okay? We don't want to spill. Spilling is a look where we get so much intracellular glycogen and water that it actually leaks outside the muscle, creating a softness between the skin. That is not a good look, okay? That's gonna make an athlete look softer. So the goal here with the front load is that you're loading carbohydrates, and then based on how you look each day coming down, you're gonna time that just right, and then on Friday, you're gonna do a slight increase based on what you need. Now, for most athletes that are completely depleted, this approach works. This was actually the approach that I used the first couple times I competed. My coach set up a front load. I'm gonna talk about the specifics of why I no longer do this, but this is still a very good option as opposed to the first option, which would be complete depletion. The second most common option I hear about now is called a rapid backload. Some coaches use this with great success. However, from my experience, it's very difficult to time. It can only be used on very specific athletes, and it requires a lot of things that I feel are very tough to manage. So when I want to ensure the best peak possible, I use what I use now, which is the linear progressive load. So first I want to talk about what a linear progressive load is. In my mind, a linear progressive load is the best way to ensure that muscles are full and hard on show day, that we're feeling good on show day, and that we can predict how we're going to look and feel based on what's been happening all week. The one big issue I noticed with my front load approaches was that I would have this really high carb day on Monday, and then I would look really good on, say, Wednesday or Thursday after the carbs started to come down, and I could never get that look that I got on Wednesday or Thursday on show day. Sure, I looked pretty good, but I never looked like I did the day on Wednesday or Thursday. And what I've learned over the years is that when you take someone who's depleted or been dieting for a long time and you throw a bunch of calories at them that they haven't had in a while, or you just give them a big refeed, what happens is you kick on some stuff. You kick on some things like hormones, you kick on some things like metabolism start to increase. So you start to change these variables. And what happens is your body can actually start to burn through food quicker. So even though you've ramped up the calories, you're actually burning through them quicker. And what I would find is I would actually hit a prep low the day of the show. Not usually ideal when food is going down. Now, if you hit a prep low while food is going up, that can be a good sign. But what happens was I was so depleted the morning of the show that I hadn't had enough carbohydrates on the Friday before the show. And carbohydrates take a little while to digest. You can't just ingest them and have them go straight to the muscles, okay? It has to go through the process of digestion. And that was my main problem with the rapid backload. Adding, say, 600, 800, 1,000 calories in 24 hours to someone's diet, that requires them to really be able to digest and break down a lot of food in a short amount of time, and you're assuming that it's all going to go well. So that approach really requires a precise look and the ability to know how that person's going to respond. So what happens with a linear progressive load, which I'll put on the screen here, is that we start to bring carbohydrates up each day. Now the value in this is I can actually have them check in every single morning and we can get a look at just how they're looking. A little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Now what I'll do is pay attention to how the scale is responding, how their training sessions are, how they look after they train. They should simply just be getting better each day. What I'll also do is start to taper down the cardio. What this allows is the body to recover better. I like my clients to use core load during peak week when carbohydrates are excessive. I also like my clients to use what's called core hard, which is kind of a cortisol reducer, because what I want to happen during peak week is stress to be coming down while our hormonal processes are ramping up. This really gets things going, and I have actually seen people drop weight while adding calories, looking better and harder every single day, thinking that it's some type of magic. But what we've actually just done is started to use the body's systems to our advantage, because I'm not doing a front load and ramping up all these systems and then depleting. We're actually allowing these systems to ramp up going into the show. What this leads to is usually the highest carb day of prep, the day before the show. Digestion. We want to make sure we're eating the same exact foods during peak week that we've eaten this entire time. We're going to keep fiber steady or low. Now, a lot of people will ask me, what about water? What about sodium? Well, water follows solutes. So as long as carbohydrates are going up and you're keeping sodium going up with that, well, guess what's going to happen? The water is going to follow those carbohydrates. They're going to be stored in the muscle cells. You're just going to look better and harder, and it's going to be a much better approach than trying to guess how many carbs, how much sodium, and how much water you need to add in a 24-hour period right before you step on stage, okay? So this is the approach that I use with just about all my athletes. But here's one thing you have to know. It's not for everybody. There are many ways to do this. I do not think that my way is by any means the best way. I think it is the best way based on my experience, the people that I work with, the goals that my clients have, and so far it's been wildly successful, okay? So I'm only continuing to improve and learn the process more and more. Now, this doesn't mean I use it every time. This requires an athlete be completely shredded the week before the show, okay? We're not using peak week as a week to continue getting leaner. No, the athlete should be completely dialed in before the show. Hopefully, I've had a chance to even give them a diet break and multiple day refeeds so I can further predict just how they're going to look on show day. What I like to do for training during peak week is on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we train like normal, okay? Depending on the division that you're in, your last really hard leg day should be on Monday, just because I don't want the muscles to be kind of blurry on show day. So on Monday, we're gonna have a really hard leg day. Tuesday and Wednesday might be chest and shoulders and back somewhere in there, but really, really full intensity. Especially if you're doing multiple shows, you don't want to just completely back off training, because then if you're doing this for back-to-back weeks, you're going to risk a little bit of lean body mass loss at this stage. Thursday and Friday, light circuits, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, just going in there, training, you know, with a little bit of oomph, but we don't want any soreness, no intensity techniques, okay? And really the goal is just to keep digestion moving, okay? Because training increases the rate at which we digest. We also want to keep the nutrients going into the muscle, so we're going to be burning through a little bit of our substrates, but not too much. But it's also going to encourage them to get restored as we're eating, as calories are going up. So now we have all these things going in our favor. If you think of the muscle as a balloon, all week long it should be just filling up, filling up, filling up. Then on the day of the show, we're going to kind of keep food pretty normal. I don't like to use carbohydrates as a way to fill out on show day. Instead, you're going to wake up a little bit flat, especially when your metabolism ramps up and you're sleeping really well. You're going to wake up a little flat, but guess what? It's just sodium and water. You have your first meal, you drink 16 to 20 ounces of water, and bang, you're gonna see some veins and some vascularity. I also have my clients do some walking in the morning. Heck, some of my clients, I'll even have them train in the morning just based on how they look. If they notice they always look better after they train, well, hey, what matters? Nothing but prejudging. You have to get on prejudging stage looking the best you can. Now, after prejudging, what are we gonna do? Well, depending on the class, depending on the situation, I like to have my clients go have a big sodium meal and then go have another 30-minute workout, because guess what? You come back to finals looking even better. Okay, guys? You stay hard, you stay sharp, and you can potentially compete for an overall. I'll post some pictures throughout this video of clients of mine that have used this approach and done very well. So if you're not following my Instagram, you can go check it out there. Hopefully this, guys, creates some interest and some questions, and I'd love to hear below about what you think. And hopefully you appreciate the infographics that I had to create for this. All right, guys, I'll talk to you tomorrow.